Hello, friends. Long ago in this land, there were no tall mountains, only low hills. But now the peaks touch the sky and their shadows rest upon the ground below. How did that happen? Well, long ago, the Thunderbird lived here. It made its home among these hills. It lived in a great nest atop the highest hill. From its lofty perch, it could see everything, and with its keen eyesight, it watched over all the people who lived far below. Now, the Thunderbird was an immense bird. Its wings were so large that when they beat against the air, it stirred up powerful winds, and with each flap, the air grew heavy and still. It was a master of the skies. It soared higher than any other bird and flew faster than any creature on four legs. With every beat of its wings, the earth trembled like a newborn babe crying in the night, and the sound of its voice echoed between the hills like distant thunder. The Thunderbird was not only powerful, it was also very old. It had seen many generations come and go. It had watched them grow their towns and villages and tend their fields. And although it was very wise and very powerful, it was also very lonely. It longed for company, but none of the animals could match its speed. They could not keep up with it in the sky, and the humans were afraid of it. When they saw its enormous shadow passing over their fields, they would cower in fear and hide in their homes. The Thunderbird was too strong for them. Its talons were like hooks. Its beak was sharp as a knife. Its eyes burned with the fire of 1,000 suns. To the humans, it looked like a monster from the sky. So the Thunderbird lived alone in its nest. Every day it watched the humans going about their business, planting crops, raising their houses, gathering in great numbers to hunt the buffalo, dancing around campfires at night, and all the time, its heart ached for them. Oh, how it wished it could be part of their world, part of their lives. But it was too big. It was too powerful. It was too dangerous. There was nothing it could do. So it just kept watching, day after day, year after year. One day, some villagers decided to make a grand celebration. They built huge bonfires and piled up great gifts beside them. Then they stood back and waited. They wanted to make an offering to the Thunderbird. They hoped that their gift would win its favor. When the moon climbed high in the sky and the bonfires burned low, they heard the sound of mighty wings beating the air. And then they saw it, the Great Thunderbird, circling slowly above them. When it came closer, they could see the pleading look in its eyes. It seemed to be asking for their gifts. And when it landed beside the fires, they knew their wish had come true. Quickly, they ran to the edge of the village and hid behind the trees. Then they watched as the Thunderbird came down and took the gifts. It ate the meat, drank the water, and even used the blankets as bedding for its nest. For the first time, the Thunderbird felt as though it belonged. Here it was accepted and loved by the humans. It was no longer alone. But the Thunderbird was still very powerful, and as the years passed, its strength grew greater and greater. One day, it flew to the highest peak of the tallest mountain and let out a mighty roar. The the sound of its voice shook the earth. It was so loud and so powerful that it split the mountain in two. The mountain cracked and crumbled like an eggshell, and the Thunderbird used its sharp beak to carve deep lines into the rock. These lines formed great ridges that stretched across the land like the scars on the body of an old warrior. Then the Thunderbird flew to another mountain and did the same thing. It roared until the mountain split open. It pecked and scratched until the bare rock gleamed in the sunlight. And wherever the Thunderbird went, it left its mark. That is how the peaks and valleys were formed, how the rivers and lakes were created. The Thunderbird had shaped the land itself, and as it flew back to its nest, it left behind a gift for the humans. Each time the wind blows between the ridges, it sounds like the Thunderbird's voice. And when lightning strikes the rocks, it leaves behind bright streaks that look like the marks of its claws. These are the signs of the Thunderbird, reminders of the great bird that once lived among us. From that day forward, the villagers knew that they were not alone. The Thunderbird was watching over them, protecting them from harm. They could hear its echo in the winds, see its spirit in the lightning. And whenever they looked up at the mountains, they saw the peaks that the Thunderbird had carved for them. They were a reminder of the bird's great power, but also of its love for them. One day, a group of young men were hunting in the valley. They were separated from their village, deep in the mountains. Suddenly, a storm came out of nowhere. The wind grew angry. The rain fell in torrents. And the young men knew they would never find their way home if they didn't do something. So they climbed to the top of a nearby ridge and waited for the storm to pass. But it grew darker and darker. Soon they could barely see the trail behind them or the path ahead. Then they heard the rumble of thunder and felt the sting of lightning on their skin. Just when they thought they could go no more, they saw a flash of light in the distance. It was coming closer and closer, growing brighter and brighter until it was right in front of them. Then they saw him, the Great Thunderbird, standing on the ridge like a stone statue. Its feathers were ruffled, its eyes burned with anger. The storm was his doing. He was sending the rain and wind to punish them for being caught outside. The young men were scared, but they were also excited. They had only heard stories of the Thunderbird, but now they were seeing him with their own eyes. Then the Thunderbird opened his beak and let out a loud squawk. His voice boomed across the mountains and echoed back at them. It was the sound of warning, telling them to get out of the storm, to run for cover. The young men did not wait for him to speak again. They turned and ran as fast as they could, stumbling and falling but getting up and running again. They ran until they reached a cave and hid inside until the storm had passed. In the morning, when the sun shone through the trees and the birds sang sweetly, the young men came out of the cave. They looked around for the Thunderbird, but he was gone. All they saw was the imprint of his foot on the soft earth, a perfect round shape that looked like a giant footprint. From that day on, the young men told everyone what they had seen and what they had heard. They told them about the Thunderbird's warning, about his booming voice and his terrible claws, and they showed them the print of his foot which was still there in the soft earth. A reminder of the great bird that had saved them. Many years have passed since then, but the legend of the Thunderbird still lives on. People still tell stories of the great bird that lives in the mountains, that watches over us and protects us from harm. And when the wind blows through the ridges, or when lightning strikes the rocks, we remember the Anat, the Thunderbird. As well, this is the end of the story of Thunderbird and the Sacred Mountains. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.